Okay, let's look at negative indices. I'm going to have something like y to the power of 3 divided by y to the power of 5. If I used index law 2, bases are the same and it's a division, so I go 3 subtract 5, which is y to the power of negative 2. So that's the first way of solving it. If I solved it by cancelling fractions, so y to the power of 3 divided by y to the power of 5, and then cancelling, my answer is 1 over y squared. So I've done two different methods for the same sum and got these two answers. So in other words, these answers are equal. Let's look at them. Y to the power of negative 2 is equal to 1 over y to the power of 2. So in other words, if something has a negative indice and it's on the top, so if you like it's on the top, then to make it a positive indice, we put it down the bottom of the fraction. So we've just moved that down there and the sign has changed to a positive. So I'm going to start with worked example 13, write with positive indices. So with example A, it asks us to write it with a positive indice. So that's a negative indice. So what I do is I put 1 on the top and on the bottom x to the power of 3. So I've moved it to the bottom and made the indice positive. Let's look at B. 5x to the negative 6. The 5, remember, has got a 1 there. It's 5 to the power of 1. What I do here, the 5 already has a positive indice. So I leave the 5 on the top. Don't need to move that, but I move the x to the negative 6 to the bottom and make it x to the power of 6. If it's a negative indice on the top, I move it to the denominator and make it a positive indice. Let's look at C. X to the negative 3 on y to the negative 2. Well, look what we do here. The x to the negative 3, I move it to the bottom, to my denominator, and it becomes a positive indice. What do you think you're going to do? If it's on the bottom and it's a negative, we move it up to the top, and it becomes a positive indice. Worked example 12 asks us to evaluate. To evaluate them, we first of all need to write it with a positive indice. So 5 to the negative 2 is the same as 1 over 5 squared. I then evaluate it. What it means is, what is 5 squared? 5 squared is 25. So for our next one, 7 to the power of negative 1 is equal to 1 over 7 to the power of 1, which is simply 1 over 7. With this one here, brackets, so everything, so it's 3 to the negative 1, 5 to the negative 1. I need to write them with positive indices. So I move the 3 to the negative 1 down the bottom, it comes 3 to the 1. I move my 5 to the negative 1 up to the top, so it comes 5 to the power of 1. So that is just simply 5 over 3. So with negative indices, if it has a negative indice, you move it down to the bottom and it becomes a positive indice.